Okay, recording started? Yes. Okay, great. Thank you, everyone, to the joint City Council Tumwater Planning Commission joint meeting on Tuesday, December 9th, 2025. We were a few minutes delayed. The Planning Commission had a public hearing before this, and so now we are ready to go. So with that, we will do roll call. Sorry, I kind of caught staff off guard on that one. I believe we have all the council members except for Council Member Kathy. She was out this evening. Okay. So, what's that? Do you want me to do official roll call? Sure, go right ahead.
Councilmember Leon Alva.
Present.
Councilmember Angela Jefferson.
Present.
Councilmember Joan Cathy.
She's absent this evening.
Councilmember Eileen Cornell.
Are you?
Councilmember Michael Althauser.
Present.
Councilmember Peter Bobby.
Present.
Councilmember Kelly Von Holt.
Present.
Mayor Debbie Sullivan.
And I'm here. And then the planning commissioner? Yes, okay, sure, yeah.
Commissioner Edwards is excused, as is Commissioner Kirkpatrick, Commissioner Kotek,
Present.
Commissioners Nelson, present, and our vice chair staff,
Here.
and me, Commissioner Robbins, your chair.
Great, thank you. All right, our first item on the agenda is the 2026 Long Range Planning Work Program. And who do I have doing it? Brad, are you doing it?
I'll take the lead on that.
Okay.
We'll just need to get the presentation ready. Thank you. So I'm actually presenting this item, but ultimately all the work that on the program will be done by the other three members of the department who are here tonight. Our deputy, Sharon, and Erica and Dana will have the responsibility for putting this forward. So if for any time during this presentation they start shouting at me, support them because they're the ones who are going to be doing all the work. I wanted to first, really the intent of this is to sort of have the discussion between the council and the planning commission focusing on what is and isn't working, what can be improved, what are the things that we should be aware of going into 26. So with that in mind, I'm going to be fairly rapid in going through our work program. I think you'll recognize a lot of the things from previous work programs, and then I'll just highlight some of the new things as part of that. So I would like to start first with just some accomplishments, provided I can change the slides. Okay.
Oh.
Going slowly. Which button should I be pressing, by the way? Okay. There we go. Accomplishments and adoptions. I know you remember very well, way back in the early part of the year, we did have some minor amendments to the general commercial. But the important things, I think, on the list are, number one, the food system plan, which has been a priority for the council and the commission for a long time. The comprehensive plan amendments, which focused on the capital facilities plan. And then lastly, as Councilmember Swarthout has pointed out, the bulk of the paper, the comp plan update and the development code update, which we'd like to thank the state for including so many different requirements that we had to address as part of this update. But that's a lot of work on a very short list of things. Ongoing work from the 25 work program will be working with the Parks and Rec department on the Parks and Rec open space plan next year, working with the executive department on the economic development plan update, and then focusing with the Thurston County on the joint plan update and also the urban growth area swap amendment, which will take a lot of time next year. We also have a next batch of periodic updates related to the development code that are tied to June 26th deadline. So everything that we weren't able to include in the previous ordinance will be part of that. We'll also be doing an update to Title 22 on the Thurston County Code, which is RUGA. We are now in the process of putting together the work program for the urban forestry management plan, all three elements, not just the tree and vegetation, but also the street tree and the landscaping ordinance. We have a couple of annexations that are in progress, the Brewery Redevelopment Plan to Action, EIS, Habitat Conservation Plan, and then a couple other ongoing things like the Regional Housing Council, obviously, is still very important. Our proposed work program for 26, it is an item that the council reviews and approves every year. It is the annual work program that guides the work of all of our long-range planning staff. And City Council, Planning Commission, community members, and city staff can propose things to be included in the work program. What we've done in the past is throughout the year, we've collected, here are all the things we could potentially work on, and then we present those, first of all, after internal staff review, first to the Planning Commission and then to the City Council. The work program is consisting of projects that are budgeted for 3.3 FTEs. So this is our appropriate level of staffing here, I think. Structure of the work program, similar to previous years, we have a comprehensive plan docket items, then we have the development code docket items, and then we have general planning projects and general management coordination, as well as the below the line projects that we want to keep track of, but aren't going to be able necessarily address in 26. Want to note very quickly that the projects are not listed in order of priority. They're just listed by number for ease of reference. So unlike in 25, our comprehensive plan docket has fallen off, and we're a little disappointed again by that, and we'll get through it. We've talked a little bit about the Parks and Rec plan and the Economic Development plan and all this, but that's only about 15% of our budget, all of those items. On the development regulation side, that's probably where the heavier lifting will occur, meaning the ordinances that the Planning Commission and the Council will be seeing this year will be derived from this work. We've talked a little about the periodic update for this year. I want to call your attention to the multifamily tax exemption evaluation and update. In the code in title, in chapter 330, which is multifamily tax exemption, we are, by the end of the year, no longer able to accept new applications unless we update the code. So we have a deadline built into the code for this kind of work. Our long-range planning staff are currently working on a scope they'll be bringing forward to the Planning Commission and the Council for this work. We're going to have a consultant help us with this. The purpose really is to evaluate the effectiveness of the program to date, as well as look at all the changes that have occurred in state law since we last updated this in 2019, which gives us a lot more options than we had in the past. Yes, Councilmember.
Is that a state requirement? Or
it is a requirement if we want to continue to use the program to have an evaluation and an update of the program. Mentioned the urban forestry management plan items. Other planning projects, wanted to call your attention to the code enforcement process. This is an item that we have on the broader management team agenda to address, but it's something that we deal with a lot. Current planning projects are related to the work that we're proposing for the permit system update, because we'll be asking some of our long-range planning staff to support our current planning staff while we go through that process. Want to call your attention also to two new things that are part of the work program that haven't been a part of it in the past. Yes, Councilmember Jefferson.
Yes, Fred. So do you have all your planners, your assistant planners on board? Are you 100% now? Because I know
We are fully staffed. Okay. Now, whether they're on board with all this work, that's a different question. But yes, we are staffed to the capacity that we had been asking for. As part of the work program, we had some big items that came through this past year that we really wanted to sort of call out a number of implementation actions. The first of this was the food system plan, which Dana will be taking the lead on. We've identified some very specific sub-projects that are part of that we'll be working on this year. These are taken from the plan themselves. as we finish or develop these further, we'll be looking to add additional projects in 27 and so forth. So the idea is to be very clear on, we have a plan, we said we're going to do this, this is how we're going to do it. In a similar function, we have the housing element set up the same way. We have the Regional Housing Council, where we have a commitment of a quarter of an FTE every year to support that. We have an intent to add a new item for an affordable housing project coordinator. Erica, again, will be taking the lead on all these projects. The intent with that, the coordinator position, really is to help not only those who are trying to build affordable housing projects understand the process, but also work with our staff to help them through some particular nuances, perhaps in the code and so forth. And more importantly, just encourage communication between both those parties. So if we're not hearing from somebody in either direction, we'll encourage them. We'll find out what's going on. We also have the Black Home Initiative partnership that's continuing. And lastly, I want to call your attention to this last item, the Homeless Shelter Emergency and Transitional Housing Assessment and Feasibility Study. This was part of the below-the-line projects in 2025. It's been a request from the council as part of the budgeting process in the previous year that we focus on what does the city need to do to build more of these kinds of units to address homelessness. Our focus right now is putting together the scope of work for this. We have money set aside to have a consultant help us with this. Our intent is probably in the first quarter to bring that scope to the Planning Commission and the council for further discussion. My general impression is that we're probably very good on the policy and the zone side of things right now. We're not more in the practical, how do we talk with the nonprofits and find out why aren't they building, and what can we do as a city to help with that process? Is it permitting? Is it other issues? Is it funding? Is it whatever? What can we do as part of that process? Again, we have an ongoing management of the multifamily tax exemption. We have about 3 or 4 active projects right now that we are reporting on and managing. We are also working on manufactured home park support. And then, of course, the continuing the Tumwater Housing Stakeholder Group, which we started as part of the housing element update. We want to continue those level of conversations. Habitat Conservation Plan, I think I have provided most folks with an update. Based on our most recent conversation with our consultant, we're now looking at probably having a draft to the service by the middle of next month. The service is very eager to see what we've been working on. We've been talking about what's in the draft for the past year. Now they'll actually see a fully fleshed out draft. As part of that, we are also noting that we'll be having a public process, including a stakeholder group, as well as community meetings in the first half of next year about this. I mentioned the permit system transition. That's going to be sort of behind the scenes, but will be affecting our staffing levels. And lastly, the bigger column is the general management and coordination. That's everything that we do within the city, outside the city, and so forth to work in groups. So for the purpose of the work session tonight, I wanted to turn it over to the planning commissioners and the city council members for your discussion amongst yourselves about, first of all, the draft work program, and then any general topics related to your particular roles at the city. To do that, we've sent out a collection of questions to sort of as a discussion topic. I would ask both the chair and the mayor to sort of lead discussion and so forth, but I would really like to start first by asking the question of how communication has gone between the council and the planning commission this year, and what can be improved in next year.
A discussion on that question.
We appreciated the field trips. It's really been nice to appreciate Erica's coordinating when we've been able to go out and actually see what you've been talking about. The housing, the middle housing piece was real interesting, and then the last one we just did too. Transportation piece, that one was really cool. So it's really nice to be able to visualize and see what we're doing in Tumwater. I haven't been on all the roads, and it's just nice to see what's happening, and so I really appreciate the field trips, so we can all be together and then be in a band together and talk, so, that's really helpful.
We definitely think as part of the urban forestry amendments, that will be one of the things that we're definitely looking at. I know Sharon and her staff are looking at other opportunities for that kind of thing.
Any other comments?
I just like, you know, the way that things are running, because if there's not many comments, that means you're doing something right as far as the communication is going. So, you know, coming in front of council, telling us what we need to know. I like the fact that your slides are detailed and most of the questions are answered in the slide, so I appreciate that.
Trying to think, Fred, maybe you can remind us, were there any recommendations from the planning commission where the council ended up going in a very different direction? I don't think there were this.
No, not this particular year, which is usually the topic of discussion of these meetings. I think what we have really, tried to do on the comp plan process is really, bring along the general government committee at the same pace as we're bringing along the planning commission. So there's the level of communication, not only the joint tours and other things like that, but both groups sort of understand where we're going, and with the hope and expectation that if the council members see something and say, well, what about this? There's the opportunity to bring that back and forth rather than wait to the very end. So I think we'll be trying to continue that in the future.
I can joke around about the 2,149 pages that part of our packet, but the fact that you have all had eyes on that you've actually had to read that yourself and the general government committee. So kudos to your team for doing that, but that's a lot of work, and so I appreciate that, and that you've been through that process, and then the ones that have been seeing it for us first, and then all the public processes going through that. So how can we do better? If you have any advice for us to start, because you've done all the heavy lifting, and we're the ones at the end that just get to pass it. So not just get to pass it.
You do plan to read it though, right?
No, I have read sections of it. But not like, like you all.
Riveting read for sure.
Yeah.
If we hear from planning commissioners, how it's been, we gave you all the compliments. Do you have any for, How did we do with you?
We appreciate you taking our suggestions and running with them. Shows that we're doing a good job. We do have a small but mighty team. Definitely looking to maybe add some more people to the commission, in my opinion. It would be nice. I know that a couple of us were on vacation recently, and it threw us out of forum. Why we're having this meeting today instead of a couple weeks ago. So that's something from my view.
I'll just say it's hard to recruit for some of these boards and commissions, so yeah. And especially planning commission, you know, having been a former planning commissioner, it's a lot of work, and I really appreciate it. And how this is going smoother, because I've been on some that were not going. I mean, there was somewhat of a battle going on. So this is really great that this is moving forward very positively.
And I feel like we will get feedback from you all quickly, like we were just talking about, and that is really nice because it's like, here's this ball, take it and run with it, and we'll figure it out, try and present something back to you in a timely fashion. And so that's really, really appreciated when we get feedback from council. We love hearing that.
Mostly that comes by way of staff. But I mean, you know, everybody wants to see correctly, that's great too. But yeah, I appreciate the recognition. It is sometimes a bit of a slog when there's a big stack of stuff to go through. But I guess it's in a way very satisfying to feel like we've given it, you know, generally pretty good discussion. Right now, the commission is, I think, largely in agreement on most things. We don't usually have too big of a thing, but when there is any difference of opinion, I think people feel pretty free to go ahead and get that out so that you all then, the council, then has the benefit of some other perspectives. You know, at this point, I think we're 7 people. We're down 1, but we're 7 people out of, you know, the 20,000 some odd population. But, you know, I think we're doing our best from our different backgrounds. I would welcome the opportunity to invite more people to join Planning Commission.
Did we want to go to the second question?
Related, obviously, to the first is what well in 25 and what could be improved as part of it. And this is less on communication, more on, I don't know, products, reducing the size of packets, those kinds of things.
Well, we won't have to comp plan to go through.
I would like a potluck event. More team building, more food, more camaraderie.
More public meetings, yeah, Angela.
I think one thing we did talk about last year where if there are instances where the council does depart from a planning commission decision, that instead of just making a different decision, instead we have the time and the capacity to refer it back to the planning commission with input for additional consideration and additional context. We didn't have to do that this year, but that's a practice that we've utilized at the Regional Housing Council when our advisory boards send us something. If we have a concern about it or want to do something differently, we instead refer it back to the boards for reconsideration, along with some of our thoughts and inputs, so that they can then consider it again. And they could send us the same decision after hearing about those things. But I think that is a more, so long as time permits, I think that's a more collegial or respectful approach to interacting. So I won't be around next year, but if there are points of departure, I'd encourage sort of a thoughtful approach like that.
I'll just be getting comment now at the dais.
Are there any additional opportunities for collaboration considered in the 2026 and beyond?
We have potlucks. We have more public meetings, just a general type.
Field trip.
Well, and more, yeah, I think the more field trips, especially when we're making some pretty big decisions. I was just down, actually, sorry, I was just in Hawaii, wonderful.
Wow,
And-
really?
Yeah,
Great.
rub it in. But I ran into some people from my hometown, which was very interesting, and they talked about how their downtown corridor has been ruined. And it was very interesting to me because it's a lot of things that we have been talking about on Planning Commission, but they went at it from a hyper, biking and lights and lanes and all this different stuff, and it's like, this is something that I'm hearing from them, and they lowered the, speed limit to 20 miles an hour. All sounds like good things, but it had me thinking, okay, if we're looking at the brewery district and what we want to do with it, is that really what? So if we all get back out there and go and walk it and see it and feel it, and really take fresh eyes, it might be a better perspective. And that was just one person from my hometown. However, I reached out to some others and they're like, yeah, nobody goes downtown. And it was really quite sad. And I haven't been down there in probably 10 years. So that's something that I brought back from there for the Planning Commission and for council, is more field trips, more getting out there and seeing it. Go looking at the trees, go looking at the different people.
That new amphitheater coming up, you know,
Yeah.
go in there and look at those different restaurants.
Yeah, but doing that as a group and as a whole. And then we have a potluck at the end.
We don't have to
Yeah.
there, yeah.
At all the
Yeah.
restaurants.
There you go.
Then I don't have to cook, and that saves all of
He's like, where are they?
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that too.
Yep.
One other thing that I was curious curious about is whether we have professional development funds for planning commission members, like thinking about like the Association of Washington Cities Conference and other conferences like that, that provide opportunity for us to all exchange with other council members, but also have really important and informational sessions throughout the day that help provide a greater context for these decision makings, help generate, interaction and exchange of ideas with other people in similar positions. And I think when I was on the planning commission, I kind of learned through osmosis. It took a long time, and I think if there were professional development funds available, that would be a good tool for helping to accelerate getting up to speed and also just that continuing learning process.
When I was on planning commission with you, I know that there was allotted slots for staff to go to the planning association group, and staff didn't go, so then Jessica Houseman and I were able to go. Do we still do that?
Well, there's two groups under the current budget. One is there's money allocated to staff to go, but there's also a pot of money that's allocated to the commission for them to go to particular conferences. It's not limited, so it could be AWC, it could be APA, it could be whatever. But there's opportunities, and I think this would be a good discussion as part of the training discussion about, okay, we have this, we're really not using it to its fullest.
They have you all utilize that? Have you?
I don't think we have. I didn't know that. I didn't know it was available. I knew that we maybe had access to some training through the Department of Commerce for planning, but I wasn't aware of like the AWC or planning association.
Yeah,
That'd be cool. I think that's
so on the staff level, we have a lot of work, obviously, to make sure that you're aware of it.
No,
But the intent is also to get you out of the city, not merely on vacation, to see what others are doing and ask them questions outside of us. That's the key.
I think there are sometimes, and maybe you hear about it a little bit through one of those planning organizations, but sometimes there's a speaker that comes into our vicinity, perhaps. I'm not suggesting that we spend a lot of money to go very far afield, but that might be another opportunity to cover the fee of hearing, maybe a speaker on, relevant topic. Mm-hmm. Thinking of somebody, like the Strong Towns Fellow or other folks like that, or maybe there's somebody at the University of Washington's planning arena, environmental sustainability. I think that's a fabulous thing to key off of.
I know I've appreciated the opportunities that Brad has sent out for online. So I've done a couple of those, especially the housing. I just thought there were so many changes this year for housing. I'm better informed. And my first meeting was after you all got your field trip. I kind of thought, oh, darn, I missed something fun. But, yeah, I do appreciate that there has been that type of communication and opportunity online. And one of them, I just didn't feel like we needed to spend the city's money on. Minor. So, but it would have been helpful to be together in a place so you could actually talk about it together and what you learned and what was applicable to the city of Tumwater.
Are there funds kind of in this vein where we the city could sponsor and invite in speakers? In other words, the city create that opportunity?
As the planning commission, you have the ability to offer that suggestion. It's a worthwhile thing.
They don't have anything to do.
No, we're fortunate though of being in this area because there's such a wealth of knowledge here and a lot of that kind of, just being able to tap into that. Our local section for APA, for example, tries to have quarterly events. We'll be including you on those invites, all those kinds of things. So.
I'm wondering, I remember on planning commission, we'd meet with the tree board. And I found that was helpful. And I just wonder if there's more opportunity to meet with more of the boards and commissions to make sure that there's that opportunity to.
Yeah. We'll be having numerous joint tree board planning commission meetings next year because of the urban forestry management code update.
I'm thinking even beyond that, though, Parks and Rec, I'm
Yeah,
thinking.
well,
with
with the
the
Parks and Rec and the
Yeah.
open space plan, that is gonna be the natural vehicle for the planning commission and the Parks Board to be meeting. We could look for other opportunities as well. I do not wanna touch the historic preservation code, but that's up to Sharon.
But I think it would be a good time, because Leetta and I went to one of their meetings, and it was like one
The
of,
hoot.
it was
Yes.
the best meeting I've ever been to.
Which one?
Excuse me, we have meetings every Tuesday.
And I,
How dare you?
I said what I said, and I meant what I said. The historic commission, like, I mean, I love all of you, but that was, I mean, I was sad it was over when it ended. It was so good. So a little bit more of that, maybe.
I do think,
There's the gauntlet.
I will abstain from that meeting because it usually involves a fog machine and other things. But I do think with the opportunity with the Equity Commission and the Planning Commission, I do think that's something new that I think would be really good to
Yeah.
explore.
Also, is there opportunities for Lacey's Planning Commission, Tumwater, Olympia?
Do they still do those meetings? Do they all get together?
The Planning Commissions?
Yeah.
I haven't experienced that.
Me, I
We did it when I was on planning commission,
We did?
or it was with the county. It was Thurston County's planning commission.
Michael's like, what?
We did it.
Somewhere you want.
Yeah, well, we will have that opportunity with the joint plan update.
Yeah.
To have a joint meeting with the county planning commission.
Every once in a while, when you have those joint plan things, you do have those joint meetings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because, I mean, you were on planning commission for like a decade, right? So you had those.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's an important aspect of including Lacey and Olympia. I have friends on those planning commissions, so it's nice to know kind of what's going on, but it would be great for us to meet as a group, just because our region needs it.
Well, and our community members sometimes don't know when they're entering a different jurisdiction. And so if you're making decisions in a silo, that all of a sudden they're like, what do you mean? It's not like that in Tumwater, it's not like that in Lacey, then.
We're actually in Lacey.
Yeah.
You work-
Actually.
You worked in Olympia.
I know as well, I'm really keen to get our economic development person on board and begin some more interaction on that front too. I think that's a real key area.
Our new economic development coordinator, Gene Angel, is quite excited. We will not need to rope them in, we just have to get Tate a hold of it.
I'll move to the next one. Are there any additional long,
It is actually Grange rather than Range.
okay, that's what I thought. Planning, projects in 2026 that should be considered.
Gotta go to the fair.
What's that?
We're going to do a fair project. We're not gonna be able to fair? Sorry.
Is there,
I don't know why we don't have more of these.
well, I think the issue obviously is staff who put this together didn't read it. But I apologize. But really the intent is, I think we tried to capture everything, for 26. Is there anything that we're missing that, so wait a minute, I thought we talked about doing this. Why isn't this on the list? So, opportunity to talk about that.
I had one question. What would it look like to do a public facilities district too?
Oh, boy. Where do you want to?
You asked the question,
I know, but what I should say is,
because that new legislation, right, you have to file by June 2026 to do a second public facilities district.
Because I brought this up, I think,
yeah,
a month ago, or whenever that was.
yeah, and I think at the time you just said wide eyes and.
You looked at me with panic and I walked
And
away.
ran out the door and
What I could
Laughing.
do is, since we're moving beyond the update process, I could ask Sharon and her staff to take a closer look at that to see what actually that would involve. Does it have to be completed by June the
You
20th?
just gotta file the paperwork.
Okay.
Beth Jolie was interested in having discussions about that.
Okay, so let's have that as further discussion internally.
One of the things I'm real interested in, you brought up, I think a month ago, is you'd hired someone new to look at water conservation,
Mhm.
which is funny to talk about after we all got rained on yesterday.
tomorrow. Yeah.
And yeah, and coming back tomorrow. But I do think it's important. And I would like to hear more about that, and maybe it's too early. Maybe that person needs a year to kind of look at the situation, assess, and be able to come back and propose some things, but,
I think, and I'm not going to speak for water resources and they're going to like it, but I think they're already having those level of discussions. I do think using the landscaping code update as an irrigation is a big component of that, is probably a really good way to start conversations about that topic. So I think they would be more than happy to participate in those conversations based on that.
And I'll go to the last one. If adjustments to the 2026 long-range work program are needed, what projects have less of a priority? I know, I already hear it's all of the above, right? Yeah.
Especially if you wanted to add public facilities district, what would you do?
Or if something emergency happens during the next year, we had like,
In my previous experience, that's kind of like an ongoing conversation. As things pop up and something happens longer, then you have to have that conversation, what can be delayed a little bit and what,
very dynamic when I think about what I used to do and the massive programs and all of the elements going on. You have to change things unexpectedly to adjust. I think it's communication, which you guys have been good at.
I'm curious, and this kind of wraps around back a little bit to, that we need to monitor or see about improvement, and that is, are there things about some of the requirements for planning that come down from the state primarily that are not serving us well? I don't know, maybe they're all working great. But what avenues do we have, if things are not going well, what kind of case do we make and how do we go about that? And I don't know if that's part of what the Planning Commission needs to consider to recommend to council or not, but I just wonder, is some of that not serving us well, but we still have to do it, eating up resources?
How do you communicate that legislatively?
Yeah, how do you go
What's
get
the
it changed so that we have the flexibility again to,
Yeah, the mechanism.
right, to have it work right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I might make a suggestion with that because one of the things, I was on the Association of Washington Cities Legislative Committee. And so when those things come up, when you have the whole AWC behind you making these that affect all cities, that has more weight when it goes to the legislature. So I would suggest that, keeping in contact with whoever is connected with the AWC to make sure that those things are on their agenda. One of the things was the manufactured home parks issue with funding. How do we change the timeline and the funding mechanism for manufactured home parks to become resident-owned? So there was a discussion. Sometimes you have to, as a member of that group, you have to really lobby hard to get things on the list. So that's a good thing to maybe work with other commissions and things. The more voices you have to a particular topic makes it a lot better heard when it gets to the state legislature. And they have great lobbyists.
It just sometimes feels like we passively just have to accept whatever. And it's like, push back in that tango a little bit.
And maybe pay attention to what's going on in AWC
Yeah.
because they do,
Right.
if there's something, like, you can
Right.
certainly contact them and
Right.
talk to them.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's a tough thing.
anything else?
I know one of the other things I've talked to Brad about and the staff is this ongoing update about the new housing requirements. And, the parking really bothers me on a lot of the elements of the housing requirements, because we're not Seattle. We're not a big city. We don't have all of our people living close to public transportation. And so I think there's some requirements in there that will not serve people well when they start doing multifamily housing. It's serious. But is that going to really happen? That's my question. Is that going to happen in the city of Tumwater? Are we going to see those kind of developments coming in where folks are not within a half mile of transportation, but there's inadequate parking because of how the codes are written? So I would like us to pay attention to that. And if it merits it, look at other smaller communities, smaller cities, and go to a group like the Association of Cities to start saying, wait, you took the statewide perspective, but this is a local issue, and it's not just local to city of Tumwater.
Parking field trip. Everybody hop in their car and go try to park. Yeah.
Like, do we have that expectation from our lobbyists that they'll be targeting particular, that they'll let us know the bill, those kinds of bills that are coming out? or
Absolutely.
do
We
have that?
actually, we receive a report of bill statuses and things that are on the horizon, not just active bills, but efforts and conversations that are happening. So we'd be happy to figure out a mechanism to share that with Planning Commission as well.
Because they'll be looking at like a whole variety, right? of
Oh,
everything.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and
Like
we are
everything.
in tune with
We're paying for them
AWC.
for everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the AWC also involves us on the planning manager side of things, so reviewing bills and so forth. The issue sometimes is with the short sessions, is having adequate time to respond and everything. So that's going to be an issue coming up in this short session. I think the ask is for the commission or the council to decide if you're okay with having this go to your January 20th meeting consent calendar or further discussion with general government next month.
I don't want it to go back to general government.
As someone who won't be sitting on it, then I do want.
We're gonna get emails every week.
Dear, I am your constituent.
I noticed.
With 3
That's
minutes.
great.
The next item is ordinance number O-2025-010, the 2025 comprehensive plan periodic update. And, Dana, we have you for this one.
Thank you so much, Mayor and Chair, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. It's so nice to be in person with you. And for the record, my name is Dana Bowers. I'm the Associate Planner at City of Tumwater, and I'm here to present ordinance number 2025-010, and it's the 2025 comprehensive plan periodic update. So we wanted to discuss this evening the Planning Commission's recommendation on the ordinance before us, and to request the City Council place the item on the consideration calendar for the December 16th council meeting with a recommendation to adopt. There we go. So the periodic update is the city's opportunity to review all the conditions in our community, such as population, housing, what the land use is looking like, and the environment, and all those pieces, to make sure that the goals and policies are working for our community, especially around land use and our development. So, and into the future for the next 20 years. So it's a long way to look out, and we have data to support it, and updating the data is how we move this forward, or one of the pieces we use to move this forward. The plan also addresses diversity, equity, and inclusion, and considers impacts to frontline communities. Plan addresses state requirements, and we've talked a little bit about those state requirements. You've heard from planning commissioners about what that's been like for them, and maybe some ways to address that in the future. But then also the two big pieces of that for this cycle were that we included a climate element, and then we have a very much more robust and detailed housing element. So community engagement walks alongside that data piece, and we were able to reach out into the community in several different ways. We had the tours that you mentioned, and the public was welcome to join us on tours, not just Planning Commission and council members. We had work groups, open houses, community meetings. We attended community events, hung flyers, posted on social media, and even had one-on-one and informal discussions with pretty much anyone who wanted to chat with us about the direction the city is growing. So on November 14th, just want to discuss a couple of the comment letters that we've had since the Planning Commission hearing. So on November 14th, we received a letter from the State Department of Commerce, and it outlines some of the changes that they recommended for our housing element, and they've been addressed, and we also included the details of our response in the staff report. Okay, we responded to them also on November 20th, and they responded back that they're happy with our changes. So that has taken place. So we also received a letter from the Thurston Regional Planning Council, and they commented on our transportation chapter, and they were mostly looking for concurrency with the regional transportation plan. And there were some project items that didn't quite align the way that they wanted to see it, and so it was a little bit of table editing and making sure that things were standing out. They noted that one project wasn't there, but it was there, so obviously wasn't easy to read. So we made sure that we were alternating rows and did a couple more things to make sure it was more legible and accessible. And then they had a couple of other recommendations also outlined in the staff report. All right, so the review and adoption schedule is next. After tonight's discussion, we are interested in bringing this forward, and would like to request that that City Council place this on the consideration calendar for the December 16th meeting. That will keep us in compliance with our need to get this adopted by the end of the year, and make sure that we're following that requirement from the state. It also gives us opportunities to implement some of these new policies, which we've been working toward with the community for the last 2 years, so that they can be out in the community and benefit the community. So to move forward with, I'm sorry, we moved a little too fast. So to move forward with adoption, we want to be so very clear about the requirements for adoption and the requirements for a comprehensive plan change. So in the Tumwater Municipal Code, 1860.025B, that code outlines what we need in order to adopt this code. So the criteria is there, and in the next slide, I'm going to detail how we met those things, or that we met those things. So staff finds that the 2025 comprehensive plan meets the requirements in Tumwater Municipal Code 18.60.025B, and so that it conforms with the Growth Management Act. So it does that. That all of the elements are consistent within the plan, so that the land use plan informs and is consistent with the transportation plan and the housing plan and the climate plan, the climate element, and they all meet and talk together. That the plan itself, the comprehensive plan, is consistent with countywide planning policies and with our neighboring jurisdictions. So Lacey, we talked about that during the last session too, that we're concerned about being on the same page with Lacey and Olympia and our surrounding and the county and surrounding jurisdictions, so that it does that we have gone through that process. and that conditions in the city have changed since 2016, and it is required to be updated because of the conditions changing. So the Planning Commission met very many times. I would love to count how many times that we met. It was over the majority of the last 2 years, and looking at each individual element and providing comments, and then revisiting what was changed and updated. So through those levels of discussion, the Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on November 10th, and they recommended adoption of ordinance number O-2025-010, and they are presenting that. They're here tonight to talk about that. So my request and staff's request of you is to place the ordinance on the December 16th consideration calendar, so it can be discussed by City Council and move forward.
Everybody comfortable with our councilman? Okay, I see nodding heads that is a yes. Great.
We all have to be there, right? As I understand too, that we're required.
Yeah, so the next council meeting, I will need all council members in attendance. They don't have to be in person, it's better if it's in person, but we need all council members in attendance at the next council meeting. According to our city attorney, we have to have everyone in.
Great work.
Everyone.
You know, this is just, yes, good work. This is just an example that, and I'm sure Planning Commission knows this, when these things come to a vote, everybody, you know, the public goes, well, that was easy, you know, why didn't you do X, Y, Z? And it's like, you don't even know how many hours goes into doing this. And you're just seeing the council vote on the final product after an enormous amount of time and meetings. So I like to say that every once in a while to remind the public that, yes, this is a heavy lift and it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of work on a whole lot of people to make this happen. And it's not just something that we just throw out there and vote on. So thank you.
And I represent a team not only of the people in this room, but from the entire city staff who have reviewed this plan themselves and provided comment, and it's been very much a team effort. I'm the lucky one who gets to sit here and represent the good news.
All right.
I think if anybody, you could look at the Appendix C, the public engagement summary that starts out on October 25th of 2022 with pages. How many pages that it goes through, how many times, how many touches. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
All right, our next item is ordinance number 2025-011, the 2025 Development Code Periodic Update, and I think we might have the recent discussion on this.
Yeah, sorry, Planning Commission. All right. Oops. Good evening, everyone. My name is Erica Smith-Erickson. I'm the Housing and Land Use Planner for the City of Tumwater. Tonight, I'm presenting on ordinance number O-2025-011, our 2025 Development Code Update. This is a process of the Comprehensive Plan Update that Dana just presented on. So this evening, the intent of this evening's presentation is to discuss the following: the 2025 Development Code Update topics, the Planning Commission's recommendation, and at the end of tonight's work session, I'm going to ask that the City Council place the 2025 Development Code Update ordinance on their December 16th consideration calendar. So the next few slides will be an explanation on what development regulations are and the specific code amendment topics that are addressed in this ordinance. It's been about a year and a half since our last work session with the council where we discussed the city's approach to the state-required amendments to the development code. I don't know if you all recall back in June of 2024, But in the meantime, we've been working with the Planning Commission and the General Government Committee on the details. And under House Bill 5558, Tumwater must adopt these regulations that implement the new state mandated changes by December 31st, 2025. This is going to be one ordinance out of two that are covering the required code adoption, code amendments to the comprehensive plan update. So stay tuned for June 2026. So what are development regulations? While sitting here, I just, a thought came to my head. Basically, they are supporting the comp plan elements. They are the comprehensive plan elements in action. They help support the goals and policies that we've addressed through the comprehensive plan. These development codes help identify what, where, and how a proposal can happen in Tumwater, what kind of permits are required, what housing types are allowed, setbacks. And then through this process, we also updated our zoning map. So based off the future land use map, our zoning map was updated and establishes the location and boundaries of zone districts. And what zone districts do is they identify a proposed project, what the zoning is, and what kind of development regulations would apply in that zoning district. So tonight, we are going to talk primarily on housing-related amendments because with House Bill 5558, that's what was required by the end of this year to be adopted with our comprehensive plan elements. Diving right in, middle housing, this was the bulk of our work that was required through this ordinance. Just wanted to go over some of the topics specifically. With the comprehensive plan and under House Bill 1110, the city must allow 2 units per lot and up to 4 units per lot in a residential zone. They get that fourth up to 4 if at least one of the units is affordable housing. And then with that stipulation, we were able to exempt the residential sensitive resource and manufactured home park zoning districts from that unit lot density requirement because we allow that density, the 2 to 4, on over 75% of our lots in the city of Tumwater that are dedicated to residential uses. What this helps do, this helps protect that sensitive resource areas. That's the lots that are zoned with critical areas, and then of course preserving our manufactured home parks. Furthermore, we must meet the 2 accessory dwelling units allowed per lot. Tumwater must allow 2 ADUs per lot as long as that lot meets the minimum lot size requirements for that zone's district.
I have a question for you, Erica.
Yeah.
And this is being mandated by the state because of population growth and needed middle-income housing and lower-income housing. So they're telling us, we want you to change these zones. Is that what I'm hearing?
It's not changing the zone specifically under this bill. It's changing the allowance for how many units you can have on your lot.
Okay.
And how many accessory dwelling units. And yes, the ultimate goal is to address the housing needs. Middle housing could be affordable, especially with the affordability requirement of the 2 to 4 units. So to get that 4th unit on your lot, one of them does have to be affordable. So this is a catalyst for that.
Okay, to address that. Okay, thank you.
And then, so now in our residential zoning districts, we allow 6 of the 9 middle housing types. So outright permitted allowed housing types would be duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, stacked flats, townhomes, and cottage housing. And then we must allow 0 lot line short plats. A 0 lot line development is allowed where the number of lots created is equal to the required unit density for that lot. This helps with duplexes, this helps with townhome development, and then upcoming in 2026, this will help support the unit lot subdivision process. more to come. And I just wanted to give an example of middle housing. So middle housing is not considered multifamily housing. It's supposed to be neighborhood sized developments and housing types. It's just not strictly single-family residential units, and it's not apartment complexes. It's supposed to infill development, multiple units, that sort of thing. So it's in the middle there. It's the missing middle. And then through House Bill 1110, we also were required to limit our design review guidelines to include middle housing, and we can't make those design review guidelines more restrictive than what we do for single-family homes. I will explain design review a little bit later in the presentation. And then also we needed to address parking requirements for middle housing. I know we touched on this earlier in our discussion on the work plan. So yeah, there were some parking amendments required through House Bill 1110. This is where we talk about the residential zone districts and the zoning map. There were some updates. We removed references to single family within our zoning designations. Our current zones are single family low, single family medium. These two single family zoning designations were combined into, basically we're just talking density. We wanted to label our zoning designations from a density perspective. So low density, and they actually got combined. And so our density also changed with that combination. So yeah, we have some new zoning designations.
These are the state building, well then, our changes, these already in the state building code?
There are some issues with translating between things.
So we're putting them in, but they're not in the state building code?
They are, but they mean slightly different things. But in terms of, we ran into this, we're trying to do a deal with some. There's slight gradation differences between the two, and more of a, it doesn't really affect the builder necessarily as much as both the building and the permitting side understand parking lot.
Who wins?
I don't think there's a clear way to resolve it.
And when does this take effect?
This particular one,
Right.
if all goes to plan next week.
So everything that's in the pipeline now is not affected?
That is correct. Everything that's currently been vested
Right.
is under the existing codes. Anything the application.
So we have lots and lots and lots of houses right now that this will not affect.
But if you're vested and you want it to be under this new density, you could reapply and
You could, yes. It would be a new application, you'd have to withdraw your existing application.
And that might benefit them if they wanted to build more, but like with the climate change, the climate standards that we tried to put into, but we have people that already applied for their building, and so they aren't subject to having to apply to the.
Right, they're fine.
Right.
Yeah.
But, importantly, but I'm just trying to say, we're trying to put something, our intent is trying to, to better our environment, but we can't now because there's a whole group of, we have permits out there that they won't have to go by those standards, so. I know, I'm just saying, so.
I think that's
So
always.
we try our best to try to do our best.
Yeah, and that's always an issue when we have a code change of some sort. There's always going to be that cutoff.
Right.
But based on anecdotal evidence and the fact I'm listening to people come to the counter every day, I'm hearing a lot of chatter about, we're waiting for the code to come, changes to come, so we can file our application. This is a different conversation.
Well, this,
than-
they can get more.
Yeah,
more
we've had in the past where I gotta get this in before the code change.
Correct.
So I'm not hearing that. So that's a good sign.
So Erica, that means in the future, we're gonna have more denser communities,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yeah, we have projected housing needs that we're supposed to meet. So we definitely we need more housing units, and so hopefully this, with these housing allowances, the unit lot allowance, unit lot density, we can start to see more infill, more accessory dwelling units, different housing types that have more housing units. Yeah.
To prepare our community, because you hear from, you always hear that we don't want, denser community, we want more, single-family homes, and these people are moving in, but, it's a requirement that we have to do it, so, okay, thank you.
Yeah, part of the Growth Management Act.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I will say, we have had great engagement with the community, the development community, like Brad said. The city has been really great with conversating with the public and letting them know the changes and getting feedback. And so it's been great to work with the community, and I'm excited for these changes.
We are growing.
Now we're going to dive into some accessory dwelling unit specific updates other than those required by House Bill 1110. We talked about we must allow 2 accessory dwelling units per lot as long as that lot meets the minimum lot size for that zoning designation. No development or design standards for accessory dwelling units can be more restrictive than that of the principal home. Our current code says the accessory dwelling unit must match the look of the existing residence. Now we allow for more flexibility on the design, on the trim, access, things like that. We must allow the conversion of existing buildings to an accessory dwelling unit, even if it's non-conforming, even if it doesn't meet the setback requirements. It's a shed. Someone wants to convert it into an accessory dwelling unit. It was built prior to code. It still needs to meet building code requirements now, but that structure itself can be converted. Accessory dwelling unit, we increased the maximum size from 800 square feet to 1,000 square feet. So our accessory dwelling units are getting bigger. The city will provide pre-approved accessory dwelling units with that new 1,000 square foot maximum size.
All right, can you remind me, so we've had this conversation in the past. This all assumes that you're on city water and sewer, right?
That is, yes, they still will need to meet the requirements for all the other reviews for a residential unit. So that does mean water, sewer connections.
Just the thought process, and we've talked about this before, is like in the larger parcels, southwest Tumwater, like Stallone Well and Septic, there actually is more opportunity in it, right, to do more ADUs there, but you can't because you're on well and septic.
Mm-hmm.
So the ability for us to help the transition from both conditions from being on a well, having a septic system, allocating all that space for the septic system, and expanding our services to offset that.
That's a long, long term.
It's an important part, but I think we've talked in the past about, it's not uncommon for larger development projects to lead the way, to make changes in a particular area that's to help other development projects, but we've also in the past had conversations about what can we do to sort of push a particular area forward where we don't have the advantage potentially of a larger development coming to do that kind of work.
I mean, is there ever a chance as we continue working towards this, if it's a house that is multi-generational and you're just moving one of those people to a parcel, it's the same equivalent daily rate. It's still the same load. So why couldn't we allow that if you're not actually adding more load? It's the same number of people on that lot.
The problem becomes with the new regulations of how unit lot subdivision, meaning that in the past we could always have a requirement that the ADU would be owned by the owner of the parcel, and there would be a direct connection. We no longer have the ability to require it. So while it may hold true for that particular family in that particular situation, if ownership changes or circumstances changes, then a whole different situation. That's one thing that we're still finding.
Right, and when those conversations come up, I mean, also is like phasing this out, right? You don't get access to a loan, you don't get access to payment plans that connect to water and sewer, so wouldn't there be some interim, like, you can actually do your ADU and pay for that, knowing that eventually it'll connect to water and sewer. Like, is that part of the conversation? Like, how do we offset some of these costs or spread out the costs for families?
I think you've identified those areas that we're still trying to work.
Thank you.
What about HOAs? Because I know that HOAs don't allow them. So this, we're only talking about new builds. We're not talking about, like, if I decide I have enough room in my backyard to build an ADU, I wouldn't be allowed to because my HOA wouldn't.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, but the legislation says new HOAs and new developments moving forward cannot restrict. But those that are existing, the regulation, the restrictions still apply.
So that's still on our list too.
Yeah, and with the utilities, that is something that I've outlined for the 2026 Development Code updates, especially when we are talking about subdivision process. It will be a lot of internal discussions on how do we make this work, how does it pencil out. That is part of the amendment process when we're talking Development Code, is how do the other departments, other reviews, does it work? Is it feasible? Is it translatable? Is this code usable? So that is going to be a lot of the work outlined in 2026 when we start looking at more of these Development Code updates. Yeah.
The Bateman might be interested in, she's very much a housing ad.
On our list.
It's on her list.
For current HOAs, yeah.
Yeah.
As part of this, part of the 2025 Development Code updates, we're also introducing the co-living concept. This replaces the former definition for boarding house or rooming houses. This is individual living bedroom units where we share facilities such as kitchens, restrooms, communal living areas, and we've allowed it in our zoning designations for that medium density residential, high density, the mixed use residential, and our general commercial zone districts. Basically, any zoning designation that allows 6 or more units.
What's the difference between that and just I rent out a room to the house? I have a guest room and I rent it out.
This is based on the amount of, well, it has to be in a specific zoning. So it has to be in a higher density zoning, or a zoning that allows for it. And then this is 5 or more units. I think it's 5 or more bedrooms. Yeah, so it's specific to the zoning designation, the density requirements, and the designation. This replaces boarding houses or rooming houses. We have it in our current code, we just changed the name.
It does sound more fun being the boarding house lord than a co-living housing.
We did argue about
Yeah, and then for this type of housing, the city may not require co-living housing to meet any standards that are more restrictive than those that are required for other types of residential uses in the same zones, and we cannot exclude co-living from participating in affordable housing incentives. We have some...
Sandra, look away.
Yep. Yeah. So we made some updates to parking, it's specifically for housing near transit, so within a half-mile, housing standards for seniors, those with disabilities, housing that's affordable to very or extremely low-income households, and then market rate multifamily housing. We updated our residential parking stall size requirements, and now tandem parking will be allowed towards minimum parking requirements. And I thought this was new. This is not something I see every day, so I provided a diagram of tandem parking. Yes. Also, we have religious-sponsored housing density bonuses. So now if a religious organization wanted to propose housing, affordable housing, there is a density increase for the amount of units that they can provide as long as they maintain those units as affordable to those making 80% of the area median income for at least 50 years. And then we added that to our affordable housing density bonus allowances in our Tumwater Municipal Code. We've also updated our religious-sponsored homeless housing. We updated the definition for homeless encampment, and then we updated our criteria for a religious-sponsored encampment, including requirements for garbage disposal, site parking, overnight shelters, fire and safety requirements. We also updated.
Can I ask a question about that? I think our definition for essentially no one has ever used this, or in part because we limit it to 90 days. That maintained under our update.
There is a limit that's still in there. That's a subject. A much broader conversation.
Earlier, I promised a slide to go over design review requirements and what that might mean. Design review ensures new buildings and development contribute positively to the community. Some of these elements that are reviewed might include, but are not limited to, the building height, walkability, access, pedestrian safety and parking, lighting, roof lines, signage, landscaping. So within our design review, the citywide design guidelines, we've updated so that middle housing and accessory dwelling units are not more restrictive than the primary structure on the lot. We added middle housing and changed the title of our design guidelines, removing single family reference, and updated our cottage housing as well. All right. Earlier this evening, we held a joint, adoption process for ordinance number 2025-011. We have a joint work session this evening, and then we are scheduled on December 16th, 2025, to have the City Council consideration for both the Comprehensive Plan Update and the Development Code, 2025 Development Code Update. Earlier this evening, the Planning Commission recommends approval of the 2025 Development Code Periodic Update by Ordinance Number 2025-011 to reflect the current information of the City of Tumwater and our state requirements. This evening, I would like to ask we place Ordinance Number 2025-011 on their December 16th, 2025 consideration calendar with a recommendation to adopt.
For Dana and your person, are you going to be doing the slides again, or like a fresher, like a zhuzhed version, or the same version?
Would you like some more information?
I think it's perfect the way it is. I take it back. I'm so sorry. That's great.
Because our presentations are pretty much ready to go.
We
wanted, the one thing that I changed in my presentation is we don't necessarily need to talk about the commerce and the TRPC comments again. That was mostly because that's an update to both bodies about what the comments that we received. So I intend to take that out.
Great
but
plan.
otherwise,
Yeah. I dig it.
If you want more, she'll give you more.
Yeah.
Take it back.
On the development code, would you like a briefer, more consolidated?
I think it was good.
Yeah? Okay.
Because it also helps if we get questions, we can refer them to the meeting to watch it, right? So it's good to get people to watch that.
Yeah, and then, like that question I asked is the why, you know,
Mhm.
and in the future, it's gonna be higher density. Just be prepared for that. That's all.
Yeah. No, great input. Thank you.
So, he seeing consensus to put this on consideration for of our meeting. I don't have anything specific on the mayor, city administrator, other than, again, the reminder that all council members need to be in attendance, either in person or remotely. But you need everyone for that vote. And so with that, reminder that we also have the reception at 6 o'clock before the council meeting next week. Certainly welcome to come and attend. No additional business, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, meeting is done.